Hello people, I am Jaby KOAY. I just got done watching Rogue One, A Star Wars Story about maybe 20 minutes ago, and I haven't really prepared my thoughts. I just wanted to get on camera and talk to you guys right away. I'm not going to give you a review where I'm saying, oh my god, I loved it. I will say that I liked it more than The Force Awakens. If you're looking for a quick advice on whether or not you should watch the film, if you are a Star Wars fan, I would say go out and see this movie right away. If you don't care about Star Wars and this would be your first foray into the franchise, I would say that maybe you want to watch the other ones first, because I heard some things that you wouldn't need to watch the other Star Wars films to appreciate this one, but I really do think you should. Not because of like the inside jokes or anything like that, but because it's like it's fitting in with the rest of things, and it's like you're not going to really understand who or what or why in certain aspects of the story, and that might feel just kind of weird and unfulfilling as an audience who's unfamiliar with Star Wars, in my opinion. For me personally, I actually really enjoyed it. I liked it more than The Force Awakens, but I found a lot of issues in the film, and that is typical of me. I had a lot of issues with The Force Awakens. Everyone else loved it and just freaking was swallowing it up, and I was like, yeah, I liked it. I did like it quite a bit, but I found a lot of fundamental issues in the story, and people just largely disagreed with me, and that's okay. I mean, I'm just more critical in that regard. I want more from my Star Wars movies, and maybe I'm expecting too much. The Force Awakens was better than the previous 3 installments of Star Wars that we got, and I admitted that. Now, for me, this was more enjoyable than The Force Awakens because I felt like I was connecting with a lot of the moments that were supposed to be heartfelt more than any moments like that in The Force Awakens, for me personally. The thing for me about this particular film was, what struck me, I cared more about the hunk of metal walking around with the voice than I did about Felicity Jones. I didn't really care about her character as much as I wanted to. It's her story, she's the vehicle of the film, and yet I didn't really have any empathy for her. It's like, I get it, like I see what she went through, and I see why the movie wants me to care or thinks I should, but I just didn't for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why. I really love the robot character. I'm sure everyone's gonna say that, just like he's kind of like the Tyrion Lannister of this movie. Everyone's gonna love the robot. I really loved Donnie Yen's character. I thought he was great. Donnie Yen, at the end of it all, Donnie Yen was my favorite character. As you can see from the commercials, he's got some fight scenes in the film, and the first fight scene he does, I kid you not, I wanted to leap out of my chair and scream for joy, because it was like, there's not too many American films that show fight scenes that way. It's like, most of the time when you watch fight scenes today, it's bad camera angles and the choreography is all right. Even if the choreography is great, you can't really see it because of the camera angles, like I just said. Whereas here, it seems like whoever was directing the movie was like, you know what, here you go. We're just gonna let you handle this part because you obviously know what the F you're doing. And they went with it and they went wild, and they made a great little fight scene where Donnie Yen's beating up some stormtroopers, and it was beautiful. It was my favorite part of the movie. I noticed that on some people on my Facebook, I was trying to avoid Facebook. It's hard because I knew everyone was talking about this movie, and I was seeing it like 2 days later than I should have. But some people were like, it was the best Star Wars movie ever. And then some people in the thread were like, yeah, I think after the pixie dust settles, you're gonna see that it was just the last 5 minutes that you liked. I had that in the back of my mind, and I was trying not to let that taint my experience. I'm usually pretty good about that. And as I was watching it, I was just like, okay, I get the trajectory of the movie. Let's get there faster, because I'm not sure why we're spending all this time on this. It had its moments. It had moments throughout the film. Like this, like I said, the robot, like he had the comic relief, and Donnie Yen offered comic relief in addition to his dynamic with the other Asian dude. Like they had an interesting duo. I appreciated that. I thought Diego, I don't know his last name. I thought he was a good actor. And I mean, even Felicity Jones, she's a good actress, but I don't know if it was the writing or what, like something just wasn't gelling for me like I wanted it to. I wanted more battle sequences. All the battles were saved for the very end of the movie because they wanted to make a Saving Private Ryan in space eventually, or a Saving Private Ryan in a Star Wars universe. And I think that they missed the mark. And the reason why is because it was like, it needed to borrow more from it needs to be more derivative of Saving Private Ryan, because in Saving Private Ryan you weren't getting a lot of cuts. I wanted the camera to just follow the action like we're there, almost like if you guys watched The Revenant, there wasn't a lot of cuts in the movie. It was just kind of following what was going on. I wanted that to be present here, just following what's going on, so you felt like you were in the trenches with these guys. And it kept jumping around, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that's a perfectly legitimate way to go. I mean, it's an action movie, but I wanted more. I wanted it to feel more like we were in the trenches with these guys, and I didn't feel that. It was like there was some cool moments, but I didn't feel like I was side by side with them, if that makes any kind of sense whatsoever. The action that was there was really good, like with the ships towards the end of the film that I hadn't seen in other Star Wars films. The Star Destroyer crashing and being pushed into another Star Destroyer. It was beautiful. The CGI there was great. Speaking of CGI, I really, really, really didn't like the CGI actors in the movie. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to bridge it to A New Hope. They wanted us to see the people that were from A New Hope. I would have preferred if they either didn't show their faces, or they shadowed their faces more, or they just used actors like that looked and maybe even sounded like the original actors. That would have been way more preferable than having CGI people play the people you saw in the other movies. Just to make it super connect, and I'm like, I didn't need that. I found it more distracting than anything else. Especially the last shot at the very end. It's like, we know who that is. Princess Leia turns to the camera and says, "Hope." And it was this really cheesy moment that immediately reminded me of the end of episode 3 when Darth Vader goes, "No." I'm like, why? No, you know who this person is. You get the point. They're trying to make it so that if you haven't seen a Star Wars movie, you can still appreciate that moment. But it's like, you really can only appreciate that moment if you've seen the original Star Wars films. If your ultimate enjoyment of this movie hinges on you seeing the other Star Wars films anyway, they may as well just not have shown you that person. Just leave a question mark so people will go and investigate for themselves. Who is this person? The conversation will go. They'll be like, they'll ask their friends who have seen the Star Wars movies, and they'll be like, you gotta go watch the original. One thing I really, really loved was when Darth Vader shows up and starts kicking ass at the end. I was losing my mind just as much as I was when Donnie Yen was doing his fight scene, his first fight scene. His second fight scene was whatever. But his first fight scene was great, and Darth Vader just ripping through these guys was amazing. Like with the lightsaber and the Force use and all that stuff, it was like we've never seen Darth Vader like that before in any other Star Wars film, as far as I can tell. Those two moments in the film, I feel, made the film worth the price of admission alone. It was really gratifying to watch, honestly. The film had a great selection of actors. Everybody in the film was well chosen. I didn't think to myself, I wish that actor was not in this movie at any point. I felt like everybody fit the film really well. I liked that it had a very diverse cast. I really appreciated that. Another thing that stuck out to me that I didn't appreciate was the music. I did not like the music in this movie whatsoever. And you can feel like it's trying to be John Williams, but it's not quite John Williams. I would have rather they just went a completely different direction and not tried to give you a John Williams 2.0 B-side track kind of thing. It's just like, no, it's not the same. Either give me exactly what has been used before, or give me something completely different, because this half-measure shit is just not working for me. The directing of the film, even though I was not completely sold on Felicity Jones, even though, not that I wasn't sold on her, but even though I wasn't feeling her character as much as I wanted to, because at the end of the day I just felt like she was a vehicle for the story rather than being someone I connected with. I really appreciated the direction of the film, the way scene work was being handled, even though, I just made my complaints about it not being Saving Private Ryan enough during the battle sequences. In general, I think the director did a great job. It's a lot to handle being the first solo Star Wars film that is not directly part of the episode series to be its own standalone film. I think that's a tremendous amount of pressure. And to be able to take that on and create even a semi-decent movie, and this is more than a semi-decent movie, that's a feat unto itself. Every Star Wars film, I think, is going to have a lot of pressure for at least the next couple of years. Episode 7 had a lot of pressure behind it because it was the first Star Wars movie in 10 years. This has a lot of pressure behind it because it's the first standalone Star Wars film. The next standalone Star Wars film will have a little bit more elbow room. Episode 8 and 9 are definitely going to have a lot of pressure behind it to be great films, and to top whatever The Force Awakens, the precedent that Force Awakens has set. I'm gonna go back and watch Rogue One again. Like I said, I appreciate a number of moments in it, and I would like to watch it in IMAX. I watched it in regular, widescreen. There's enough here for me to revisit at least one more time. I hope you guys don't like crazy hate me who are hardcore Star Wars fans. This is just my opinion, trying to be as unbiased as possible, and just looking at Rogue One as a movie and as a Star Wars fan, and trying to find like the balance between the two, and as a filmmaker, like just looking at it as a story, like how did I feel about this film? Out of 5 stars, or 5 Jaby heads, for those of you who like hearing that rating system, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I would recommend watching this movie if you're a Star Wars fan. If you're not familiar with Star Wars at all, go at least watch episode 4, A New Hope, and then watch Rogue One. So at least you've got some context to work with. That's it, you guys. Thanks so much for listening to me ramble about this. Hopefully you guys don't hate me for, not giving it 5 Jaby heads, 5 stars, whatever. I'm Jaby KOAY. Peace out.